Tahira Hasan, I also want to talk about how such cases have become common, the kind of psyche that we are seeing, the kind of psychology that perhaps must be going behind such absolutely horrific and heinous crimes, that you're murdering somebody and then you're cutting their body into multiple pieces and stuffing it into a refrigerator. This is not the first case that we are seeing. We've seen that with the Shraddha Walkar case as well in the past.
Yes, we have seen that this type of heinous crime in the Shraddha case also. At that time also, we all was shouting at the top of our voice and doing the debates and all. But I'm saying that we only discuss and talk and debates going on and protest. After that, everything we forget and nothing is done. So I think the conviction rate, if really there is a political will to curb the violence, sexual violence, especially against the women, we must increase the conviction rate and they stop the selective outrage, and treat these type of culprits very strongly. It's not like that. We have seen that one of the three accused of the gang rape in the case of IIT BHU, when they were released, they got the warm welcome. So these things, cannot be deterrent. You cannot curb the rising violence. You see this Ram Rahim, he gets parole, he's convicted in rape case also. So I think this, we have to see in whole, to curb the rising violence. Why this violence is not stopping? In spite of this, we have very strong laws in our hands.
Let me get in Nirmal Kaur ji here into this. Yeah. Ma'am, help us understand. You've had an experience of dealing with criminals, of people who commit crimes. What's the kind of psychology that might be behind this kind of, heinous act? There is clearly no fear of law and order.
Definitely. This is, what we call a sociopath or a psychopathic personality committing this kind of a crime, because after such a cold-blooded murder and then a even colder-blooded disposing of the body, that shows that you're not dealing with a normal human being here. You're dealing with somebody who's very, who has no guilt feelings, who has no fear. What we call it basically a psychopathic personality. The thing is, with this kind of individualistic society, with lack of social cohesion that we are facing now, earlier, psychopathy was always there, but they lived on the fringes of the society. Now with, increasingly they're joining the mainstream of the society. We have psychopaths amongst us in white-collared jobs and everywhere, in banks, in hospitals, everywhere. But we don't get to know them. Only because they're very sharp, they're very smart, they're very suave, they'll appear very normal, more normal than any normal person. And only when you have been their victim are you able to...
But why has that happened, ma'am? Why are we seeing this inclusion in mainstream?
Because, the society now, we don't know our neighbors. There's no social integrations. There's no social, we don't know who's our next door neighbor in the village. Everyone knew everyone since they were children. Who's been an aberrant child? Who's been stealing other people's fruit? I mean, all this goes up, that who has improved over time when they grew up, who is again, going around killing small insects and, helpless creatures like that. All this even early on shows a very psychopathic personality. Earlier, when everyone knew everyone, these kind of reputations were known. Now the people can come and pretend to be anything and we have to believe them because we only go by how they get up, how they are dressed, what expensive clothes they are wearing, or, how they pretend to be, how confident they are. But those kind of things now are more important than the real, the real personality, the persona you put on.
Tahira Hasan, do you resonate with that? The fact that we are, we're placing more importance on the external rather than the internal?
Yes, and we are also, the facade is more important than the person behind it. We don't...
Ma'am, I'll come to you. Yeah.
Because it's much easier to...
Yeah, I'll come to you. Tahira Hasan, you want to come in on this?
Yes. This, just talking one aspect, I agree, but this, I'm saying it is a psychopathy personality, whatever personality it is, But if if the crimes are committed against the women, I'm saying again and again, we have been shouting this for 20, 25 years, that if the crimes are committed, then punish them. And conviction rate must be increased. There must be fear of law, whether you're psychopathy or not. how you will make it deterrent? Otherwise, the laws are made and they will not be a deterrent. They cannot stop this rising violence against the women. And this domestic violence, I say that we must treat it very seriously. When the young boys say, witness this kind of domestic violence in his own home, where the mother is controlled by the muscle power, by father is beaten in front of the small child. He thinks that women are second class citizens. They can be controlled by the muscle power. So they also do it. They treat the women like that. So I always say this Domestic Violence Act, which has been implemented in 2005, must be taken seriously. And the neighbors also keep watch. If the voices are coming or something like that, they must intervene. We have stopped as a society. We failed. We stopped intervening. We are so insensitive. You have seen in the Agra case where the one girl was going on the scooty and the 5 men on the bike were tried to pin her down, and the people are making video. Can you imagine? Ujjain, on the broad daylight, the girl was raped, and the people are making video. So what is this? There's a new law in society also.
Let me also understand from you, Tahira Hasan, the kind of uncalled for victim shaming that we're now seeing in this case, what's the solution for it? You can't change a person overnight. You cannot change the police force entirely overnight. From where they're coming from, the kind of, perhaps the kind of psychology that they have, mindset that they have regarding all of these issues. There has to be a gradual change that happens, and there is training that's happening among the police forces, but that clearly is not enough. That clearly is not well implemented if these are the kind of remarks that come in such heinous and horrific crimes.
It's not the first time, it has been happening for such a long time. And we women should not wait for that. In the Hathras case also, these type of voices are coming. इस तरह की बिटिया गन्ना के खेत में पाई जाती हैं, अरहर के खेत में पाई जाती है. I mean, character assassination of the girl who has been raped. They talk like that. Always the women's dress code and lifestyle is criticized for that. Nirbhaya case, what had happened? Said, why did she go with the male counterpart? Why did she go out in the night? There's a Lakshmana Rekha. Who has made this Lakshmana Rekha for the women? That is different for the women and the men. And why it is different for the men and the women?
Yeah.
This is when we have our rights in our constitution. It is enshrined in our constitution, Article 14. Why should we? We want freedom also.
Yeah.
It's a state to protect us or take the action. It's laws which have been made should be implemented properly, and these type of people, whether they are psychopathy personality or whatever personality, they must be punished. Conviction rates must be increased. Then only we can stop this. Not stop completely, but at least we can decrease this rising violence against the women.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. We'll leave it there. Tahira Hasan and Nirmal Kaur, thank you very much to both of you ladies for joining us this evening and sharing your perspective on this entire case.